All right, it's now 5:01. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Data Committee meeting. Looks like we're missing a number of people, but maybe they'll come on at some point. And also I wanted to thank everybody for skipping last week. We ran into some technical difficulties, so we had to push this one to this week. This is the third of these committee meetings, and there's no specific agenda for today. I know we're trying to catch back up, particularly after the sheriff talked to us a couple of weeks ago. Some data went out to you all. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at it all, and I see some new people on here, so I'm not sure if everybody got it or not. We can kind of walk through that and see. It's just the initial data. I mean, I'll look through it, and there's some things obviously that are missing that we need to kind of go back and follow up on. And then Anna is on the call, and she had put together kind of a diagram as to how we proceed over the next couple of months to make sure that we're not missing anything. So anyway, that's kind of how this thing is going to go. We have a 6 o'clock hard stop. Again, we have a committee coming in right behind us. But I did want to start. I see some new people on the call today, and I wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to kind of introduce themselves, particularly with some of our new folks. So I'm just kind of going. Sean, you were on the call last time, but I'm not sure if I gave you a chance to introduce yourself. Do you mind unmuting and just tell us just quickly about yourself? Not an hour's worth, but maybe just a minute or two. Okay.
My name is Sean Whitstro. I'm a local artist here, and I am the Criminal Justice Task Force member, co-chair of NOAA, and I also serve on the Community Oversight Board.
All right, Sean, I think I'd given you a chance to say that before. I'm thinking back, but I thank you for introducing yourself again. So no NOAA, you're a co-chair of NOAA's committee, correct?
The Criminal Justice Task Force, yes.
Okay, all right, okay. I'm glad you're on here. That's helpful. Tim, had you introduced yourself before? Tim, you're with Metro, right? Or no?
I'm actually with Code for Nashville and Open Tennessee. Okay. Which are kind of two related groups. We volunteer groups. We have a project with sheriff data or on arrests that we work with several nonprofits on. Okay. But Vienna Tompkins, who's also on this call, is a lot more expert in jail data. So I extended the invitation to them.
Okay. All right, I'm glad you're here. Vienna, you're right underneath Tim on my screen, so you have to go next. Sorry.
No worries. Hi. So yeah, I'm a project lead with Code for Nashville, and I also work in criminal justice data professionally as well. So I've actually done some work with pretrial services in Davidson County through the Crime and Justice Institute. So kind of a merging of the two worlds.
All right. So before I move on, how much do you have? A lot of data? That's one of the things that we don't have a lot of yet, but a lot of the data of people who are being incarcerated into the Davidson County system. Do you have that data?
So CJI has some data. It's not super recent. We're currently, sorry, my dogs. But we're currently, this is Jake, and I've got another one down here. So yeah, we're currently wrapping up a validation of the risk assessment that's used in Davidson County. So we have a lot of data on the folks who are released pretrial, but not so much those that are currently in the jail.
Okay, that's helpful to know because I think we're going to get into that conversation in just a little bit.
I'll just add briefly, one of our projects is pulling the data from the sheriff's office on who is in the jail currently.
Okay.
So we have that updated every day.
Oh, okay. That's good. Okay, Ms. Charles, Jenny Charles is a new member of the committee. Ms. Charles, you're recognized.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. My name is Jenny Charles. I grew up here in Nashville, and I've worked in the criminal justice system since I graduated from law school. I began my career at the public defender's office under Ross Alderman, and have worked at the Davidson County Sheriff's Office, and I'm now an assistant district attorney. Criminal justice is my passion, especially finding programs that can try to drive down gun violence. In 2016, I created a program here at the District Attorney's Office in conjunction with the Dismiss House, which is a nonprofit transitional living community for men recently released from prison. And the program was designed for folks who were arrested with illegal firearms. And for a day, we would bring everyone together. We would bring in speakers to offer wraparound services in terms of employment, mental health, GED, tattoo removal, etc. And after attending the program, the person would be able to get their record expunged if they were eligible. I'm pretty passionate about evidence-based programs and the statistics supporting what you're doing and making sure that recidivism rates are dropping. And unfortunately, after 2 years, we ran some stats, and the folks who were going through that program had no better recidivism rates than those who didn't attend the program. So unfortunately, I decided to end the program. I'm not going to give up. One program I'm really interested in, and I would like to see Nashville get behind. It's something that Memphis is doing right now. It's called Focused Deterrence, and they've had great luck with it in Memphis and Oakland, California. And it's one of the few programs that has really driven down violent crime rates. And in some, I'm happy to be on this committee, and I'm looking forward to what everybody else has to say. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Jenny. Peter, have I introduced you before? I can't remember.
No, but my name is Peter Velir. I'm the lead research analyst for Metro Nashville Community Oversight. So I am a Metro employee and work for the city. Our director asked me to make myself available to the committee in any way that we can be helpful. My background is in data. I have a PhD in sociology and have focused on criminology. I've taught sociology and criminology in prison, and I've been a volunteer for quite a while at Riverbend prison, as well as Turney Center as a professor. So I'm happy to be helpful wherever I can and be a resource for the committee. I feel like I'm kind of an evangelist about evaluation and trying to make sure we're doing as much as we can that's evidence-based and having strong evaluation as a city so that we know that what we're doing, whether it works or not, and how we can best invest our resources long-term.
Let me ask you the same question I had asked Vienna and Tim. How much data do you have in terms of, since the focus of this is looking at the data of people kind of going in and out of the system, particularly trying to figure out revolving door stuff, who keeps coming in and out of that system. Do you have that? Do you have good data on that at this point?
So I think the question is, where's the data housed, right? So the cities, where that data starts with the police department with arrest data, the courts keeps data in the CJIS system, and criminal justice planning is the Metro department that does all of the jail population data. So they issue monthly reports on jail population, do projections about jail numbers in the future, and have been doing that for about 20 years. So they're probably the best source of that. We don't maintain any of those records, but we do work with them and analyze a lot of that data.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about data in just a minute, but that's helpful to know as well. Morgan, I know you've introduced yourself before. Laura, I think, has introduced herself before. Keita, you were on the call last time, but we didn't give you a chance to introduce yourself. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Keita Haynes, and currently I am the Senior Legal Advisor at Free Hearts, which is a nonprofit organization here in Nashville, and we support women that are in prison and coming out of prison, as well as children who have parents that are deported. And we do various other issues, deal with various other issues in the community regarding social justice, criminal justice, and racial justice issues as well. And I am a former public defender. Prior to joining Free Hearts, I worked at the public defender's office for 6.5 years, serving a lot of the people in the community that were considered the least of those. And I enjoyed every single minute of it. And I graduated from Nashville School of Law, went to Tennessee State University. I'm originally from Franklin. Formerly incarcerated. I spent 4 years in prison for a crime that I didn't commit. And all of my adult life has been devoted to everything related to criminal justice reform.
Okay, thanks, Keena. Okay, so just a couple things, and you can change the agenda. So we haven't met since we heard from the sheriff, so I thought I would kind of open it up to see if anybody had any follow-up discussions, information, questions from that discussion. I know that we have sent out a lot of data, we've sent out as much as we had over the past couple of days. I don't know if anybody's really had a chance to look at it, but there's a lot more that we need to get. So if people had a chance to look at it, I think we need to kind of dig through that and figure out specifically what more data you want and how we go about getting that. And then I was going to turn it over to Anna to talk kind of about her agenda schedule, about how we do this and whether we have guest presentations. I think that's kind of where you were going with kind of the schedule. We can go out and get whoever you want to hear from in order to kind of make sure that you get the information you need. There was a question that came from, I think from Jennifer, about how long this committee is supposed to last. It can last forever if you all want to just keep going. But it's really designed to, there is no set deadline. The only thing that you always need to remember is that if you come up with an idea or a concept you want to get to the council that impacts budgetary issues, you've obviously got me on the committee, you've got Councilmember Sepulveda on the committee. So you can give it to us or you can present it. We can present the whole thing to a report to the council, and then they can determine whether they want to do some action on it. Doesn't have to be this year, it can be next year. We're not sure at this point what the budget is going to look like in terms of whether we're going to get out of this pandemic sooner rather than later. Let's hope it's sooner, but we're not sure. And then that sort of determines some of the budgetary stuff. But in terms of whether you see things that ought to be considered by the council in terms of the budget, April is when we get the budget from the mayor. So sometimes easier to get the stuff in the budget into the mayor's office because usually we leave the mayor's budget alone, but the council does have discretion to move things around. And so you can always pass it through that way. Okay. All right. So why don't we talk generally about any questions about, I know we kind of ran out of time with the sheriff, but were there things that you never got a chance to ask that we need to follow up on? Were there things that kind of made you interested in terms of the conversation? Anything you all want to say about that? Ms. Ward, you're recognized.
Thank you. I really appreciated his candor and the focus on mental health. I think from a recidivism perspective, the thing that I didn't hear him talk about was how he is preparing people who are incarcerated for the workforce when they come out. And I lead a program at the chamber that's around Tennessee Reconnect, and we go into the jail once a month and we work with people to help connect them when they get out to support to return to school. But the process is hindered by the system. We're working with someone right now who he can't fill out the FAFSA because he can't get online. He can't, there's so many things they can't do because and I understand that there has to be rules and things, but they're sorting people out of the opportunity to get training by the way they have the system structured. And it's, I think this would be a good opportunity to maybe talk to him about how we can change that in addition to, getting data and things like that. Because if people who are incarcerated aren't being trained then we're not helping them to be ready for their new life when they get out. And the one thing that the men that we have worked with have consistently said is, no one cares about us. And if there were 100 people who said the things that we said when we're in there versus the people who don't want them to succeed when they get out, they're not willing to hire them. They're not willing to train them. And if they spent any time incarcerated, their barriers increase exponentially. And I think that's part of sort of the reason that I wanted to join this group, was that I think it's important we begin to change the narrative of people who are incarcerated in our jail, if we want them to not return.
All right, I got it. So I was looking at my notes because one of the things that we don't have yet was Morgan had suggested on that first call about looking at participants in programs and their success rates. Looking at what programs are available. One of the questions that came up, and Councilmember Sepulveda may remember this, when there were questions about the private facilities as compared to the public facilities for jails. One of the arguments we kept hearing was that there were certainly a lot of programs that were being required of those private facilities. I think you're right. I'm not sure what is in our current facilities. I know about the Reconnect program, but other programs within the Davidson County system in terms of programs that are available for people who are incarcerated.
I don't really think that there are like any pre-release programs.
They have a few, but they don't have a credential attached to them.
Right, and I know that, you know, and I think the problem is that because, you know, anybody that's in custody in the sheriff's department is not going to be there for any longer than 11 months and 29 days, versus when you had people that were, you know, out at court civic, they were there from 1 to 6 years. And so, you know, that was different when it came to different pre-release classes. And then, you know, when you get to TDOC, of course, but, you know, I just think that there is, you know, like Laura has said, there's definitely a lack of programming in the actual county jails for pre-release, because one of the things that we would see a lot of times, and I think people, you know, take it for granted, was that you have people that are coming out that don't even have a driver's license. So it's really hard to do anything without any type of driver's license, without any type of ID, any type of identifying information. And, you know, so so, you know, it's kind of like, okay, well, can we at least start here with getting them that information that they would at least need in order to be able to do some of the other things that they need to do. You know, and I had actually talked with someone about trying to get something set up with DCSO where people would at least have some form of identification. Because I mean, you're dealing with some homeless populations who they lose everything when they come into custody. You know, and a lot of people, you know, a lot of people lose homes when they come into custody. And so that, you know, so that's a lot. And so that's a simple thing that, you know, a lot of us take for granted, but a lot of people in custody don't have identification coming out.
Thanks.
The most intensive.
Jenny, go ahead, and then I've got Councilmember Sepulveda after you. Okay, go ahead. Jenny.
I wanted to make mention the most intensive program that the Davidson County Sheriff's Office offers is for the locally sentenced felons that Core Civic used to house, but now the Davidson County Sheriff's Office took that over. And that program is called Journey to Freedom, and it's a residential substance use program, and it is 9 months, and it's pretty intensive, and it's pretty good. In terms of whether the participants in that program fare better upon release than those who have not participated in the program, that is something I don't know, and would be really curious to know if statistics are kept on that.
Okay. Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think that we asked Sheriff Hall for some follow-up data, and it was what programs are currently available to inmates, and if we could get a report from him on any data that he has on them, I think that would be helpful, so we could compare them to what maybe some other states do, and even other counties.
So you want programs, what seems to be working and what doesn't, is that right?
Yeah, any data he might have on that. And then I also asked about programs that are in other languages, if they are currently being offered.
Got that. All right. Anna, you're next.
Hi, I would just like to maybe explore. So I know that a lot of these programs or attempts at these programs are either run by law enforcement or by the sheriff's department. And I was wondering if we could explore other options for who is in charge of executing those types of programs, like either inside the jails or pretrial, all of those types of programs, because I think that the common denominator is that it's either law enforcement or the sheriff's office that's in charge of these. And so, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. But I do think that we should.
I think your pizza's ready.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that that is something worth discussing in terms of the quality of those types of programs, and also, the outreach as well.
Okay, good point. Let me ask you this, either Keita or Jenny. I know because I've spent time out at the women's prison, this is state women's prison, where they Lipscomb was doing educational programming and other things, and a lot of it. Obviously, we're talking about a different situation, more limited time. Do you know of other groups? I know Laura was talking about the Reconnect program, and she's with the chamber. Do you all know of other programs that might be being offered that are outside that what Anna's talking about? Not by law enforcement, by outside groups that come in to try to help?
I do know about Lipscomb. If you all want more information about that, I can definitely do digging and come back next week.
Okay, that would be helpful. Keita or Jenny, do you know of any other programs?
At Free Hearts, they have they were doing a program with the women when it was still Core Civic, about some pre-release and parenting and a lot of those things. They were doing those programs with them. I'm not since COVID and then since ending the contract, I'm not sure what has happened with that program with the women on the inside right now, because nobody can go inside the jails right now. So I would say that we're definitely not doing any programming right now there with the women. And most of the programming that I knew of was programming, like I said, when it was Core Civic. There was a program, and it was mainly a program that men did. I think it was Men of Valor. They had a program there that they did at Core Civic. I'm just trying to think of like some other people that would have been going in. I mean, I can check with our executive director about that, and then I can also check with her to see if there was any programming that was going on at the actual sheriff's department, because we had a contact at the sheriff's department that she would talk to about different programming and stuff as well.
Jenny, any follow-up?
Yeah, I mean, the programming options at the Davidson County Sheriff's Office are numerous, and not all of them are run by law enforcement or the sheriff's staff. Sheriff Hall is pretty open about allowing volunteers to come in. I know that when I was over there last, I ran into a guy and he was teaching guitar lessons. A woman I know, Dr. Melinda Crisp, came in and made purses with some of the female inmates. So he's pretty open. for folks from the community if they want to come in and share a skill to do that. And I think it's helpful to sort of break down the population we're talking about. You've got misdemeanor sentences that folks are serving, and they are in the Davidson County Sheriff's Office custody, and they've always been there, even when Core Civic was running their facility. And then you have the locally sentenced felons, and that is anyone serving a sentence from 1 year to about anything over 6 years is the general rule. And they used to be housed by Core Civic. Now they're housed at the Davidson County Sheriff's Office. Anyone with a sentence over 6 years is going to prison. They're going to be in state custody throughout the state in any number of prisons. So, going back to I think Keita mentioned, it's so hard when somebody gets a 30-day sentence or a 60-day sentence to put them into a meaningful program that's really going to be impactful on their life. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try, but it is difficult when you have just a little bit of time or a few months.
Any comments on this? I think we'll follow up and see what programs are out there. Maybe we can get a list, both in terms of who provides it, who teaches it. I think Laura had put something on there about another program, so that was on the chat box. Let me ask you this. Other comments, we'll follow up on that. Other comments from what the sheriff said the other day that you all wanted to follow up on? Anything in particular?
Yeah, one of the, this probably goes beyond the scope of this committee, but I personally, I find it to be something good to keep in mind is that when he was talking, it was very much about the people being the problem and not the fact that some of the laws and how police have to or do respond to those laws are part of the problem also, right? So Keita just mentioned if someone is homeless and you bring them into custody and they lose everything, they don't have a home to go to. If they had, they don't have it, right? And so, if someone is homeless and we have laws and legislation that are requiring people to react a certain way, then, if the issue is that they're homeless, then they need housing, right? Not to be in jail and lose all of their worldly belongings. And so I appreciated his desire to integrate programs into the system, but I didn't hear a lot of recognizing that the system is also part of the problem. And so again, some of it's probably outside of our scope, but if we can address any of those items, that will help with, part of the mission, right? Which is to reallocate budget dollars to reduce people coming into the system and also the recidivism component. And sometimes the system makes the system.
Right. I think that's well said. I noticed that too when I was listening to that.
And then can I just
say
that, a lot of times when people are coming into custody, whether they are there for 3 months, whether they are there for, 6 months or a year, there's not a needs assessment that is done for people upon release. And I can tell you that I've been through pre-release classes in the federal system, and it was a joke. And so there's not a needs assessment that is done for people, because like what my need is when I leave prison may be different than what Anna's need is when she leaves prison. And so there's not, we're not looking at people as individuals in this situation and saying, what can I do, to meet Sean's need? We're just saying, this is what, we're going to do. And so I think that, as we are moving forward and we're talking about this and possibly talking about, maybe, having Nashville come up with, I always believe that Nashville should focus more on reentry and have more programs that we think about an individualized approach for people that are coming out of the criminal justice system when it comes to meeting their particular needs in order to help that particular person not to, end up back in the system, instead of just something that is just blanket, you know, and that it's created for everyone, because it probably may not work for everyone.
Keita, let me ask you a question from your standpoint as a public defender, and maybe this goes back to Jenny, and then then we'll switch over to the data stuff. The individualized kind of assessment, how much of that does happen? I mean, when somebody comes into a facility, how much work is determined to deem what might be an appropriate thing? And we'll talk about the data, because I thought something the sheriff said was interesting in some of the data they sent. But if you're talking about an individualized treatment, how does that happen at all?
No, so the only thing that's even individualized that I am even aware of in the sheriff's department is if someone has to do like the drug and alcohol program that's in there. And so that's on their judgment sheet that comes from court, or if it's someone that has to do one of their, you know, like one of their domestic violence programs in jail, that's on their judgment sheet that comes from the court as well too. Outside of that, that's really it. And really, and the only reason why those are even focused on is because that's tied to a person's release. It's usually, if you do this program in jail and submit a motion to come back in court, you're going to be released. And so that's the only reason why that's even paid attention to. But as far as anything else is concerned, and to even determine what skill set someone may have, like none of that stuff, from my understanding, is being done at the sheriff's. I don't even think that there's any type of because I know they have work release programs at the sheriff's department where people are allowed to leave and go and work, and they have to come back. I know they have that, but as far as like, you know, actually talking to someone and you know, trying to figure out what skill set did they have and talk to them about what may be a type of job that they may look for when they get out, I don't think any of that kind of stuff is being done at the sheriff's department at all.
I do have a follow-up question, Keita, if you don't mind. So if these people are on work leave, are they getting paid for the work that they're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it minimum wage, or is it less than minimum wage?
I think it really just depends on the job that they have, you know, and so because I mean, if you go to Wendy's, you know, out at Harding Place, you know, there's a chance that, you know, somebody that's working at Wendy's may actually be somebody that's on work release from the facility. Now, are you talking about like if you see the people like out on the streets, like picking up what we see on this side? Okay, yeah, no, no, they are not paid. I don't think that, because okay, so at the sheriff's department, and this is testing my memory here. I know you could work in the kitchen, and they had rockmans, and rockmans are people that's sheriff language. It's people that they like call out of the cells to like clean up the hallways, or if there's been an accident, like to clean up, you know, something somewhere like that or whatever, and they get like special privileges or whatever. And so I know they had those. And then, like I said, they had the people that worked in the kitchens. But you did not get paid at the sheriff's department. I think the way that it works is that if you have a job, because it used to be automatic when you went into DCSO that you got 2-for-1s off of your, like if your sentence was 2-for-1. So if you were sentenced to 6 months, you would do 3 months because you automatically got that. But they changed that, and you really only get that 2-for-1 if you are working or if you're doing some type of programming. And so, but yeah, they don't pay them. I don't think we get into the pay thing until we get to TDOC.
Let me recognize, Anna, you okay? I got Sandra Sepulveda has her hand up. So Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you. Can we ask Sheriff Hall if there is a line of communication between the Sheriff's Office and MDHA and Social Services? Because I know we just had a $10 million grant for rapid rehousing to house our unhoused neighbors. And so just trying to figure that out, that way that they are aware of the program if there is someone that is unhoused currently in our system.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Good point. All right. So let me, I don't want to run out of time because we only got about 20 minutes again. Switch over to some of the data that some of you may have gotten, some of you may not have had a chance to look at it at this point. It's initial. We got some information from the sheriff's office, some from Open Table Nashville. There were a couple of other things that were going out. Most of it's just very basic, and it's going to take us a little while to drill down into it, I think, to make sure you fully understand. One of the things that I particularly found interesting was, at least in the latest monthly report from the sheriff's office, the number of people that hit the button on mental health. Somehow, whatever they did, they got a check. And so it was almost 50%. And it was, I don't know this, it's a low, medium, or high score in terms of, I guess, the needs that may be triggered by whatever they fill out. But it seemed like a lot of people were checking off that box for mental health needs. I, for one, I mean, this is one of those things that I think we do need to follow up and figure out exactly what that means, because that's something that we need to be taking a look at. Overall data, I'm just asking openly. It's limited at this point. We have more coming. What did you see in the data, and what else do you want to see? And it's open to anybody. Not everybody at the same time.
Are you
Anna?
In general?
I'm just, well, so I'm asking probably two things. There's your pizza again.
I know, right?
One is, was there anything in the data that you saw that said, you know what, we need to dig more? When I saw the sheriff stuff on the mental health, that was an immediate, like, we need to dig into here. Was there anything that you saw, or I know I have a list of things that we're still getting, but are there other things? I know, going back to Morgan, one of the things that we need to do is find peer programs in other cities. And we're working on that. We don't have that yet. But what other things do you want to see? What elements do you want to see that we can get to you where you can take a look at it before the next call? That's what I'm looking for. Anna, did you have something?
Yes, I would like to, I mean, I said this before, but I'll just reiterate. I do want to see more information on the programs that the sheriff's department is currently doing. And then number two, I would also like to know more information about that mental health facility. How qualified their mental health assessors, I guess is the right term. Like basically what the logistics of it are, the quality, what types of people are being sent to that facility. That is what I would like to know.
Would you, and Jenny may know this better than I would you like, and we possibly could do this for the next call, to bring in whoever operates, not the sheriff himself, but whoever's operating that facility to come in and answer your questions about that? Would that be helpful?
Sure.
I know, again, Keita and Jenny know more about this than I do. We see it in the council, but you know, it's a pretty big deal. Now, it's only been operating at the new site since I guess it's been open, but I'd be interested to know how they determine low, high, and the low, medium, and high, and what is kind of their overall goal of having people kind of diverted into that center, and what are they seeing so far?
Davidson County, yeah, they've got a great lady on staff by the name of Exadria Inslee. I think it might be helpful to hear from her or their programs director, Paul Malloy. But in terms of who is going through the new mental health center, it's low level folks who are sentenced to low level misdemeanor sentences. It's my understanding. So in other words, if someone is serving a 6-year sentence for a aggravated assault, I don't know that they're going to be going there.
Okay. Keita, do you have any follow up on any of that? Do you know how it's working?
No, I don't, but I do know Zadra, and so I think, we could possibly see if we could, get her here to talk about it. But, you know, I, yeah, because I would personally like to know what they are seeing since, since the facility has opened, and how, how they are getting people over there, and then what they are doing with people's cases that are referred to that side as well too.
Hey, Tim or Peter, do you all have any data on the new facility? Have you seen it? Have you gotten any information back on any of that? Kim?
Peter probably knows better, but I can answer. Would you go first, Peter?
No, we haven't seen any specific. I haven't seen any specific information on the new facility. A lot of the services are also provided by the Mental Health Cooperative, and they also collaborate with MNPD in having mental health diversion into the crisis treatment center. So they do pre-jail diversion, as well as offer services with clinicians at the jail.
Tell me about the pre-jail. Do you know much about that? Because we hear that sometimes, obviously in a situation, the mental health component comes into play at the very beginning. So do people not even get into the jail to go to that facility? Do people get diverted immediately in a different way?
Some do. So there are partnerships between the police department and the mental health cooperative, and to get them. They have a mobile crisis team that can assist with calls where mental illness is a primary indicator. And instead of taking that person to booking, they can be taken for evaluation to the mental health cooperative. And that, through the arrangements that they have set up, can divert people into mental health treatment and assessment.
Okay.
Charles might know more about that than I do, but that so far, the numbers I saw for last year was that there was about 1,000 people diverted.
Jenny, you have any numbers on that, or do you know how that kind of works? Ms. Charles?
I don't have any numbers on it, and I don't know that numbers are being kept. That's a question I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if we were to?
What I've seen come from the mental health cooperative and then their numbers of interventions, and so on their end, I know they do keep numbers, and so I think that's probably something to look into, is who's evaluating these programs. What parts of Metro government is doing evaluation within the sheriff's department, and then the folks who are doing that, they might be somebody to talk to as a committee, since they would probably have the best understanding of the numbers.
Okay. So I'm trying to figure out, for purposes of the next meeting, it sounds like you're interested in maybe two components. One is in terms of pre-jail diversion through a mental health cooperative. How is that done? Maybe if somebody's keeping up, how the assessment is made, how many people are actually being diverted, and the success of that program. And then if they do go into the jail system, who's going into that new behavioral health facility? How is that working? How many people are going through right now? And it's still early, but maybe the initial take on whether it's being successful or not. Does that sound okay for the next meeting? I'm looking for heads. Okay.
But I think we need to keep in mind when we're talking about mental health co-op is the fact that they have a partnership with the police.
Yeah, understand.
Because we just had a situation a couple of nights ago with, one of our people that was suicidal, and we were going to call mental health co-op, but she didn't want us to because they have a partnership with the police. And we were told that if mental health co-op came, they would call the police and the police would have to come. So, I think we kind of need to keep that in mind when we're kind of looking at this information is that, police are involved with mental health co-op when they are called out, and what that actually looks like and how that may skew the numbers for the people that are actually being brought into the facility.
Oh, and Keita, I'm not even sure. I know that there's that connection, but I'm not sure either kind of how it works procedurally or logistically about, the police are called and then they make a determination, or is there another way where the police aren't called and mental health can just come? And I'm not sure about that, but we can find that out. Okay.
We were told from our social worker at Free Hearts, we were told that when mental health co-op is called out, for a crisis situation, that they call Metro to come out as well. Okay.
All right. Well, we can check on that.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, you had your hand up. Sorry, sometimes I don't see it right away.
No, that's fine. My curiosity was regarding the criteria that's used to determine when mental health is the primary issue. So when someone calls 911 or whatever, and it's initially sent for police engagement, who determines, or at what point is it determined? What's the criteria that it's a mental health issue primary?
All right. I think that's going to be a question for either, it sounds like there's different avenues into the mental health world. One is when mental health cooperative is called, or the police are called and a determination is made there, and what's the criteria. And then I'm still looking to try to figure out the criteria that when people go into the jail facility and they divert over to the mental health facility, what is it that makes them move over? And I think those are all good questions. I think we have to dig into that and ask somebody to come explain that. Sandra, I think you were next, and then Tim is after you.
Is the mental health cooperative the same as the mobile crisis center, mobile crisis team?
That's sort of my understanding. Does anybody know for sure?
Yeah, the mobile crisis is a part of the mental health cooperative.
Okay. I think several of us didn't even know that we had a mobile crisis team. Can we bring someone from that program to come and talk to us and give us a rundown?
Sure.
Because that has been something that has been tossed around by other council members, and apparently we didn't even know we had one.
We'll get somebody from the mobile health crisis to come. Let's see who was now. Oh, Tim, you were after Sandra.
Actually, I think I saw Anna's hand. So how about Anna goes first?
I'm just ignoring Anna because she's eating her pizza. Anna, you go, and then Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Jim. That rhymed. So there is an example in Denver, Colorado, where a lot of their mental health and nonviolent situations, they recruit STAR to handle that as well. And I think that would definitely be something to look into, and maybe a model that us as the city could emulate, because in turn, especially when it doesn't have anything to do with police matters, there's no crime that has been committed. I think that it would be best to, leave the mental health to the mental health professionals. So I think that that's definitely something that we need to, look into.
And the STAR model is in Denver. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, Denver. Okay. All right. Tim, you're next.
Yeah, so I think I have a pretty quick question, but basically, I'm not the expert for Code for Nashville, Open Tennessee on anything, criminal justice related. That's Vienna for sure. But I see our role as being potentially helping find, share, and analyze data for this group. And so I want to ask Peter really quickly, actually, do you think that separate facility, that when they divert, would that show up in the sheriff website that we're scraping? No? Okay. Well, so anyway, I guess what I'm offering is, potentially as we collect data sources that are more granular, we could do things to help bring those data sources together, and keep them, like I said, we already have live data on arrests with the sheriff office that update every day. So we would love to be able to bring those data sets together and make them more useful for the group.
Sure. We have, you know, we can get the data, but you all, I think we have some experts on here who can actually crunch the numbers and analyze it a little bit better. So I'm glad you're on here. Yeah, we're happy to let you all do that. Okay, so we only have just under 8 minutes left. I think I know where we're going for the next meeting, and we'll work on trying to get some hard data for you all to look at before you get to the meeting, and then we'll bring in some people. We'll see who we can get for the next meeting to talk about some of these different things. For the last little bit of time, I know that Anna had sent out kind of an overall chart to use. Anna, would you mind taking like about 5 minutes? I know some people didn't have a chance to look at it, but kind of the idea of what you had in terms of how we proceed ahead. Obviously, we now have kind of the next meeting schedule, or at least what we're looking at. But can you just kind of briefly go over what the kind of the concept was that you had for the meetings?
Of course. So it was basically just to, because I got a lot of questions about what is this committee doing? Where is the direction going? And da da da. And so I thought that this would help all of us kind of map out what departments we want to hear from, and then also what type of data that we would like to, you know, like what type of data we would like to look at as well. So we basically maps out every single department that we want to contact, which includes the court clerk office, MNPD, MNPS, the sheriff's office, and I even set a tentative date for when we want to start working on drafts for our recommendations and our proposals to Metro Council. And that's kind of what it is. And so I mapped it out so that we have a brief overview of the previous meetings information in the very beginning, and then we talk about the new information that we got, and then we basically establish which department we're going to hear from for the next meeting. And as people are going to present, and as and as new things come up, I will be changing and altering the calendar. And as soon as I alter it or make any changes, I will definitely send word out. Hopefully, well before the night directly before a meeting. This will not happen again. And so, because I literally just kind of got my life together, and then I was like, well, let me get the committee together too. So this is just a way to just kind of map it out and organize it inside of our brains. So if you have any questions or any suggestions, I'm also up to that. Comments, let me know. I am at your disposal.
All right. So people may not have had a chance to look at it online, and then make suggestions to Anna, and then she'll kind of update the calendar. Jennifer, you got your hand up.
Yes, I have one logistical question.
Sure.
This meeting was a change from last week, and the committee calendar reflects the bi-weekly now skipping over. So are we changing our every other so that our every other is not going to be on the 11th now, it's going to be on the 18th, and then is that the...
I think we had decided to meet bi-weekly, but we can go back to next week, or we can just now go to the 2 weeks from now, if that's okay.
No, I was just asking so I can update my life.
What if we said 2 weeks? So we'll get back on the 2 week schedule. Our next meeting will be 2 weeks from tonight. Does that help you, Jennifer, with your life and schedule? Okay.
I'll give you a list of things that can help me with my life.
Okay, well, just say I've got a whole list too, so I'm going to send mine to you. Okay, so I think we're clear 2 weeks from tonight. You gave us a long list of people. I will say that we keep running into budget 101 meetings right after ours. That's what's holding us up. At some point, they'll stop having those, and then we can go longer if you wanted to. But because of the time frame of this stuff, we keep running into this problem. It's actually 5:56, so we're gonna have to get off in a minute anyway. Everybody good for now? I think I know. So 2 weeks from tonight, we'll do it at 5. We'll see if we can go longer, and we're gonna try to get some of these people in, both maybe the person running the facility at the sheriff's office, mental health crisis, somebody from that, and maybe somebody who can tell us a little bit more about it may be the mobile health crisis, but somebody about who is called or when that decision is made, so that the mobile health crisis does come into play. So maybe that will be helpful. And then we'll try to get some information about some of this stuff beforehand and get it to you. And then Anna, hopefully, will get her life together and update her calendar and not send it to you the night before. Okay.
I'm insulted.
Sorry. What kind of pizza are you having, Anna?
Cheese.
That's what I figured. All right, everybody good for now? All right, everybody be safe. We're still in this pandemic. One of these days we'll all get vaccinated, and then we can sit down and have a cheese pizza all together. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of the night and a good weekend. Okay. Bye.